Every friendship tells a story, but some stories end in tears. The world once believed that Taylor Swift and Blake Lively shared a bond that was unbreakable. Fans admired their laughter, their shared moments, and the way they spoke about each other. Yet behind the smiles, there was a truth that no one saw, a truth that turned warmth into silence, a truth that left Blake's family carrying wounds that words could not heal. This is a story of how Taylor Swift hurt Blake's family and why the scars still remain. Blake Lively was not just an actress in the eyes of her fans. She was a wife, a mother, and a symbol of grace. When Taylor Swift walked into her life, it felt like destiny had offered her assist. Their connection was instant. Their bond was filled with laughter and trust. Blake opened the doors of her home to Taylor. She let her children see Taylor not as a superstar, but as someone they could look up to. The children called her by name, and their smiles lit up whenever she was around. For Taylor, this friendship became a place of comfort in a world where fame often feels cold. The dinners, the quiet evenings, the playful moments with the children all made it look like family was not just about blood, but about love. Chosen from the heart, fans on social media celebrated every glimpse of their bond. They said this is what true friendship looks like. They said Blake and Taylor are proof that Hollywood can still hold something real, but the same friendship that began with laughter would soon be shadowed by disappointment. Somewhere along the line, choices were made, choices that did not just shake Blake, but pierced the very heart of family. A bond once so beautiful would begin to break, leaving behind silence where joy once lived. Trust is the foundation of every friendship. Blake Lively trusted Taylor Swift with her most precious treasure, her children. She believed Taylor would always treat them with love and care in the quiet moments of family life. Taylor became more than a guest. She was part of birthdays. She was part of laughter. She was the one who held the little hands of Blake's daughters and told them stories of dreams and courage. But trust is fragile. One choice can break it forever, and Taylor made choices that Blake never expected. The warmth that once surrounded the children began to fade. Blake noticed the distance, first the absence of messages, the silence in moments where there once had been constant care. It was not a dramatic scene on stage. It was not a loud public fight. It was something softer yet sharper, a distance that cut deeper than words. Fans felt it too. The pictures that once filled social media disappeared. The edits that once celebrated a golden friendship were replaced by questions and speculation. People asked why Taylor was no longer seen with Blake's family. They asked if the friendship had ended, but the truth was heavier than gossip. The truth was that a family who once trusted Taylor now felt abandoned. For Blake, it was not about losing a friend in the spotlight. It was about watching her children ask why someone they loved no longer came around. It was about answering questions with a trembling smile. It was about feeling helpless while protecting young hearts from heartbreak. Taylor's silence hurt Blake, but it hurt the children even more. And that was the wound that cut the deepest. When a bond between two stars begins to break, the world always notices. At first, the silence between Taylor Swift and Blake Lively felt like nothing more than busy schedules. Taylor was touring stadiums across continents. Blake was working on sets and balancing her family. But fans who followed every smile, every laugh, and every shared memory began to sense the change. Social media became the stage where whispers grew louder. People wrote long posts wondering if the friendship had ended. Some fans begged for answers, saying they missed seeing Blake and Taylor together. Others felt betrayed because they had believed in the beauty of this bond. The edits that once celebrated their connection turned into sad montages filled with slow music and broken captions, hashtags like broken bond. And whereas Taylor began to appear across platforms, the press too could not stay silent. Headlines asked if Taylor had turned her back on Blake's family. Gossip magazines published stories of secret fights that no one could confirm, but everyone wanted to read. Late night shows added fuel by making jokes about Taylor moving on and Blake being left behind. The public storm turned private pain into a spectacle. For Blake, this was the hardest part. She had to watch her children grow up in a world where strangers on the internet spoke about their lives. She had to pretend that everything was fine, even when her heart told a different story. For Taylor, the storm was different. She faced pressure from her own fans who demanded to know why she had hurt a family who once felt like her own. Every post, every song, every public appearance was suddenly read as a hidden message about Blake and a friendship they lost. What once was a quiet personal wound became a storm that the whole world witnessed. And in that storm, Blake's family stood in silence, carrying the pain while millions of eyes searched for answers. Every storm leaves behind questions, and sometimes those questions enter courtrooms. When the distance between Taylor Swift and Blake Lively's family grew, it was not only about emotions. There were legal whispers to agreements that had once been spoken about in joy now turned into matters of paperwork and signatures. There were talks about promises Taylor had made regarding Blake's children. Some believed she had been considered for roles that carried responsibilities. Some claimed that trust was formalized in ways the public never fully Knew, and when Taylor stepped back, those promises did not simply disappear. They became complicated shadows hanging over the friendship. Lawyers began to circle media. Outlets reported that both sides had sought advice on how to move forward. Rumors suggested that conversations behind closed doors were no longer about love and family, but about rights and responsibilities. Every headline made the pain heavier for Blake. She was not just dealing with the hurt of her children. She was dealing with a world where private trusts had turned into public documents. The legal shadows were never fully clear to the public. Fans debated online. Some argued that Taylor had every right to walk away. Others insisted that Blake's family had been wronged and deserved better. The truth sat somewhere in the middle, hidden beneath contracts and confidentiality. Yet the damage was real. What was once friendship now had the cold hand of legality pressing against. If for Blake, the legal matters were not about money or fame. They were about dignity. They were about protecting her children from being names in a courtroom. They were about holding on to the pieces of a bond that fame had shattered. For Taylor, the legal side meant defending her image in a world that judged her every move. She had to protect herself from stories that might not have been true, but spread like wildfire. Nonetheless, the legal shadows did not just test their friendship. They tested how much pain a family could carry when trust is broken and the world is watching. After storms comes silence, but sometimes silence hurts more than words. A bond between Taylor Swift and Blake Lively had once been a song full of laughter, family, and dreams. Now it was nothing more than empty echoes. Blake's children, who once looked up to Taylor, now asked fewer questions. Their young hearts had slowly learned that promises are not always kept. Blake tried to shield them from the ache, but mothers always carry the pain there. Children cannot speak on social media. Fans continue to search for signs. Some thought a reunion might still happen. They posted hopeful messages praying that Taylor and Blake would heal the broken bond. But months turned into years, and the silence only grew heavier. Taylor built new chapters in her career. She filled stadiums with cheers. But even in the brightest spotlight, there were shadows. Blake poured her heart into her family. Yet in quiet moments, she could not help but remember how the bond once brought joy to her home. The distance was not filled with shouting or public fights. It was filled with absence of calls, absence of visits, absence of love. That one seemed unshakable, and that absence spoke louder than anything Taylor could have said or Blake could have explained. Every story in the world of fame is never just between two people. It always belongs to the crowd. As well, the voices of millions became part of the heartbreak between Taylor Swift and Blake Lively. Fans who once celebrated their bond now stood divided and defended Taylor, saying she had her own struggles, her own journey, and she did not owe anyone her presence. Others stood with Blake, believing that family and children should never feel abandoned by someone they once loved. On TikTok, edits of their old pictures flooded timelines. People paired them with sad songs, captions like "We miss this," and bring them back together. On Twitter, long threads appeared where fans debated who was right and who was wrong. Instagram fan pages turned from celebration to memorials of friendship that once felt unshakable. Even celebrities could not resist sharing opinions. Some spoke carefully about how fame changes relationships. Others dropped subtle comments that fueled more speculation. Each word became a headline. Each silence became a clue. And in the middle of all this, Blake's family remained quiet, because sometimes the loudest pain is the one you do not share. For Taylor, the voices of the crowd were both a shield and a sword. Her loyal fans defended her fiercely. They argued that she should not be judged for stepping away. Yet the same fans also admitted the sadness of losing what they once admired. For Blake, the crowd was another weight she wanted to protect. Her children from gossip, but she could not control the endless echo of public voices. Of friendship had turned into a stage performance watched by millions. The applause was gone, replaced by whispers, and the echoes of those whispers still follow both Taylor and Blake, reminding them that the world never forgets the fall of a beautiful bond. The story of Taylor Swift and Blake Lively is not just about two celebrities. It is about the fragile nature of trust and the pain of broken promises. It shows how even in a world of fame and fortune, the human heart remains vulnerable. It is a reminder that children feel loss more deeply than anyone that behind the glamour of Hollywood. There are families who cry in silence. For Blake, the wound was personal. For Taylor, the silence was her choice for the world. It became another story of friendship. Loss of beyond the headlines, beyond the gossip, and beyond the hashtags lies a simple truth. Hearts were hurt and scars were left behind. And no spotlight, no applause, and no fame can ever erase that.